It's pitiful how you won't stop making fun of her stupid little podcast. Let her have the podcast.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You hate listen to her podcast.
Wait, what?
All right, here we go. I'm Ben Boyce, and today Maddy and I discuss the film Bodies, 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 which is currently streaming on HBO Max as I'm recording this, and it's usually on some other streaming services. It has a lot of drug activity in it, but it also has some pretty interesting references to current cultural fears and taboos. Gen Zers stuck on their phones ruining the world is one example, and we get into all that. I'd suggest you go watch Bodies, Bodies, Bodies first if you haven't seen it, and be prepared. It's a postmodern film. If you don't know what that means, don't worry, nobody does. It just means weird, mixed together genres, confusing plot lines, and character arcs that don't actually make sense sometimes. But it's all deliberate, so strap in and enjoy the ride. And when you come back and you're ready to hear us talk about what you just saw, here's Maddy and I.
I was talking to my girlfriend about this last night because she recommended I rewatch Bodies, Bodies, Bodies for this podcast. And we're trying to think of like representations of drugs and teens in the media, and there's like nothing. It's Euphoria and Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. And Bodies, Bodies, Bodies was released 4 years ago. The point of Bodies, 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 I think we should just shorten that to something. I'll just say Bodies because I can't.
Yeah, I like it.
I think the movie itself, it's not the drugs that you should be afraid of. It's the drugs were a catalyst for things to happen. So I don't think these movies about drugs that we're typically used to seeing, like the ones in the 90s and the 2000s about teens using drugs recklessly, like the movie 13, for example. Gen Z is not producing these movies. Millennials are not producing these movies for Gen Z because we're trying to shift the narrative, right? Like the whole movie of Bodies was shifting the narrative towards drugs.
Oh, I want to hear the rest of this take, but I have a feeling I'm gonna disagree and do the thing that I do where I say like, yeah, but their goal is to always make you think we're doing it different. And the closer you look, you realize like Nike bought Macklemore's anti-Nike thing. No, even the best of the challenges actually often reinforce the status quo. Did you see drugs romanticized here in a way, or that's the wrong word, pro-positive? Did you see any portrayals that challenge what people generally think about those drugs?
No.
All right, what do you mean?
However, but the narrative surrounding who is taking the drugs was changing. There's this quote that I wrote down. It's when Sophie, the main character, played by Amanda, I cannot remember her last name, but she is an amazing actor, or they are. So the main character, Sophie, said, when the black girl has a coke habit, it's a problem. But when everyone else around her does it, and then she has a little, it's too long for me to write down, but she talks about how her white best friends do it too. She writes, when everyone else around her does it, it's fine. So basically she's saying, it's fine for the white people, especially white males in her life to do it, but it's not fine for her to do it. And I think there's more to dig in there about that. So say what you want to say about that.
It's a whole can of worms. It's not the final scene, but it's kind of a finale scene where it feels like, unless you're watching with this critical eye to figure out some deeper message in the poetry or the art in front of you, it looks kind of like what you're saying, but that was delivered in the context of what looked to me like three characters that are supposed to represent America. One is what we would call like the hyper-liberal, hyper-woke, everything is about race, class, and gender. And we should maybe have started at the beginning, but we're already in here, so let's finish this. But then just talk about what is a movie. Because if this sounds weird to people, as soon as we explain, how do people make a movie? They feel magic. There's a reason. There's a recipe. I saw one character trying to force the viewers to look at what your hardcore conservative would say about the far liberal. It's a character. On the flip side, there's this gun-toting conservative that is doing the exact opposite. Everything's about race with you guys, and they don't say I don't see skin color because they happen to be a black character, but they literally at one point start shooting people and then saying, I didn't shoot them. This is the character that liberals have in our mind of the hardcore conservative. This gun-toting, angry, won't engage with the actual thing. And then they're doing terrible things like raiding the Capitol on January 6th, and they change the narrative. And when you try to call them on their shit, they're like, I didn't do that. You did that. And then the third character, this wishy-washy, tends to be a little more liberal than not, but they just go with every time somebody comes along and has a clever way of saying shit, they're like, yeah, I think you got a good point there. And they're completely feckless, unmoored to reality. So your line was delivered from the liberal character who I read it as her showing us that the character that we're supposed to be seeing always puts race in everything. I don't think she was necessarily wrong, but I don't think the line landed. In the movie, it wasn't like it registered with the other. It registered with the one girl because her whole character is to be wishy-washy, but then in the next sentence, she wishy-washied back. And when the conservatives spoke up and said, it has nothing to do with race and blah, blah, she was like, yeah, you got some good points. Yeah, that makes sense.
So when the black girl has a coke habit, it's a problem. But when everyone else around her does it, including her best friend who happens to be white and male, it's fine?
I understand, and I'm an ally, and I totally get how it looks that way. Jordan, oh my God. You are obsessed with playing the victim.
Excuse me?
I had to ride in the ambulance with you 3 times thinking you were dead.
I needed help, and I got it, and I'm
You
sorry.
got help? You mean we had to narc on you to your fucking dad so he'd cut you off and ship you off to rehab while you were quite literally kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
And then you just fell off the face of the earth because that's what you do. So if that's what you do when things get tough, you run. You ran away to go write your fucking memoirs.
It's creative nonfiction, which is a valid response to life in an attention economy.
Oh, fuck off and die.
The other conversations feel a little more like what you're saying. Dialogue could be used to describe just simple stuff, but this was within this combo, and this scene is about your generation. It's what's happening right now.
Yeah. Well, the whole movie itself, to me, I didn't really see it as commentary on that drugs are bad necessarily. It's more in the background that drugs are bad because they're a catalyst, right? So they cause this whole night to go awry, and it's not the hurricane that does it. The hurricane is just a nature element of it.
It's a thing we're scared of, right?
It's the thing we're scared of, and what we're scared of is Gen Z's narcissism, internet culture, and privilege.
Awesome,
like we're
right.
really scared of these unchecked things because they're so secretive in power that you can't physically identify them. Like you could see the hurricane, so you think the hurricane is going to be the threat, right? Yeah. But it's not. It's actually what's inside the house.
And this is how you make a movie. You try to say right now in culture, the majority of people have a certain set of Freudian lust, desires, and unspoken things that make them really go, ooh, yeah. And on the flip side, they have a long list of like, I'm terrified that this might happen, and those things change over time. In 2001, brown folks that like had anything that could be related to what happened on 9/11 suddenly got wrapped up in this scary thing that we don't really know how to define. We should maybe finish the list, but one of the things we saw that was supposed to be on the list of, as a viewer, I'm struggling, because we all are in this culture, to make sense of things, and some things make me feel concerned, like my kids might be threatened. That's how you make a good fucking movie, actually. You always appeal to, like, what about the kids? And that looks different generation to generation, right? But in constructing the good guys and the bad guys, there are some things that the audience is supposed to be vested in. A fucking hurricane it's unspeakable. It's hard to put your thumb on. It's actually natural. It's not like anybody thinks it's out to get those folks, but adding that with everything else that's going on makes the viewer, we're bought into this sense of threat, which is horror. It wasn't very horror, but it was supposed to
it's dark comedy.
Movie. Yeah.
It's a dark horror comedy.
The difference between what we would have seen in 2001, 2010, and then probably what you've grown up with, that when you're trying to show a country like ours things that they're scared of and they don't really know how to talk about, there was a long list of shit on there. Uncontrolled teens and loving each other, and the cover yourself up. Where are the parents? They're using drugs too. Some of them are getting violent. There's explored sexuality in there that's like, we're still in an era where LGBTQ. I was kind of surprised they didn't also fuck with gender here, because there's a lot of cultural fears there too. But the bisexual women, I think, are on the list of things that people still have taboos. And then when we get to the list of good things, here's a magic one. It's also on the list of good things that especially older heterosexual men that are watching this are watching a taboo space. Teen girls too young for me, maybe not even old enough, but in America, we'll give you the stuff you want, and we'll even package it so you don't have to acknowledge that you're fetishizing. You're engaging in that. What happens behind the closed doors at these lesbian, bisexual teenage parties with only two boys and drugs, and they heaped it on below the surface to the Freud land where the producers are trying to appeal to our generation.
I do want to focus on B. She is how we gain access to this world. When she is locked out of the house, we lose access. And then we are suddenly brought back in, and we're confused because we're not really sure what's going on until B comes back in the house and is able to be like, oh, I understand. She's the innocent, white immigrant, innocent, blonde hair, brown eyes one.
Immigrant from where? I think I caught it, but I didn't hear it.
They told her that she was from Moscow, but I don't
so
know
good.
If she was
We
even
both
from
read
there.
that the same. There's supposed to be this sort of, she looks like us, she's engaging, but something's a little uncanny. She actually has an accent that we think is Russian, but it's a little unspoken. They almost allude to it, but she never says, I'm from Russia. And right now, culturally, it is no longer Saudi Arabia and Iraq and Iran like 2001. The scary, spooky thing that we don't really know how to put our hands on right now that we're kind of scared of as a country. Not all of us, but there's a character of us that has this Freudian fear of Russia. And what kind of fear do we have? This got real deep in that last scene when Russia comes in with a fucking hammer and literally pits the last three people against each other. And then she comes in and instead of attacking them with the hammer, she splits them up based on what? Their political beliefs. Even though they don't mention that, they're talking about it's about race and disorder. They used what I would call almost dog whistles. One of them said she's borderline. I'm assuming that's a term that's common in Gen Z, right? That means borderline personality disorder.
Yeah,
we wouldn't know that. So that's you're shouting out to this younger generation of people.
Right. It is dog whistle, but it's whistling to us in a different way because borderline is typically demonized because it's a personality disorder. Right. So a lot of people mistake it for bipolar disorder, and Gen Z views bipolar as it's uncontrollable and you're the victim, which is the main theme of this film is victimization. Everyone is at the hand of their own victimization except for B. And B is the one who takes responsibility. And she says, my mom has borderline, right? But because Gen Z thinks that borderline is so in tune with you are the perpetrator and you are this, when it really is just a personality disorder.
As soon as she says it, again, I'm forgetting her name. Her girlfriend, what's her name?
Sophie
is I didn't know that. And the person representing the far liberal character in the minds of conservatives is immediately oh, I'm not scared of you at all anymore. And she hugs her. And now her friend with the gun, who is representing the hardcore conservative in the minds of liberals, says, are you fucking kidding me? Just because somebody's mom has that's what I'm getting at. None of this is we don't know these characters. They're reading roles. We're not going to judge the actors because their character was racist or whatever. But to really dig into, but what am I taking away from the film? I am seeing in front of me representations of what there is one side of this country who literally thinks it's bullshit that all these people are well, you have to understand he's Aspie. He has Aspie. In fact, Aspie, we've come up with these nicknames to embrace what for the longest were stigmatizing conditions. And now Gen Z, like all generations before y'all, is finding yourself in this split where some percentage of you, much smaller than the higher generations, are saying, fuck that. You don't get to add transgender. Whoever heard of that shit? Some of my parents would say things that those didn't exist before. And our arguments are they not only always existed, but you guys blocked them, you've stigmatized them. We are trying to deliberately now undo the damage and the pain you've caused so it doesn't roll out for another 3 generations. They're pissed and they think we're full of fucking shit.
This was produced by millennials. So their comments about Gen Z are not, in my opinion, entirely flattering. At the very end when B's I got reception after this white man who had nothing to do with the entire movie comes in and goes, what happened? That was cliche to me. It did not tie up anything great.
How is a producer always and only, a good movie always and only figures out a way to do 2 things. Help me deal with some cultural, just some concern that I have. And since it's mass media, it's got to be a lot of us. So cultural concerns. And it lets me engage in some forbidden space like prison or some forbidden activity like sexualizing teens and going to their parties while they're making out and stuff and being the voyeur that just gets down behind the camera. Nothing to see here. Both
Well,
of those are what I
they're
see.
not teens, let's be clear. They have
We don't know,
graduated
though.
college. No, they have graduated
Okay.
college.
Yeah, but they sure are depicted as. Oh, this is me speaking as a 45-year-old. When people my age and like 5 years younger, all the way up to as old as you want to go, all but like some of the sleaziest of us are watching those characters and saying, that's not the sort of person I'm going to go hit on at the bar because I'm not a sleazebag, right? That's what I mean. We are not allowed to sexualize. Now, when I was 18, I would have probably been able to view this and, without getting in any trouble culturally, sexualize them, maybe even vocally, depending on the people around me. Now, if I'm in a room of average people, they not only are going to think, what a pig, probably, but they're going to be like, dude, you're 45. Like, you think 20-year-olds are fucking interested in they're lesbians, you fucker, right? Like, they're clearly dating, or they're at least bisexual. They're dating other women, and you're now gonna show up and be like, well, I'm old and I have a wiener. It's a pig-headed thing to say on two levels, but of course, especially in a country like ours, and Freud being what he was, those urges are still there, and they've given people a way to engage without admitting to themselves that they're engaging. Your 50-year-old conservative isn't watching this going, oh, I watched it for the boobs. But they watched it for the boobs.
There were boobs?
Not actual nudity, but I'm just saying, like, for the
I was like, what film are you
cleavage,
watching?
swimsuits, the makeout scenes. Another thing my wife and I noticed, because I just watched Reefer Madness, and 100 years old now, they did the same trick, is scenes where you almost don't know if there's boobs. There's scenes like when she gets in the car and she's had to pull the window down, she gets in and we are now looking up at her between her legs. But what we're watching is her dig through a bag for some stuff, but it's like a gratuitous scene. And then there's other scenes where people keep changing and you can't tell if they're naked or not. When she gets told, go change your shirt, and she goes upstairs and the Russian B goes upstairs and changes her shirt, we actually get this weird out of focus. A lot of it was out of focus on purpose, but not even her whole body. And we see her pull a shirt up, but then it looks like maybe she also has a second shirt on. And I think that's also on purpose. You're giving the sleazy fucking old men that are in here that want to sexualize kids, because Epstein is a reflection of this fucking country's moral sickness that we haven't done the work we should. I think they're giving the viewer that in a way that they can get away with. You can't show sexualized young people without and have old guys like, hell yeah, but you can invite them on the PG-13 journey that lets them fill in the
No,
rest with their
I'm
imagination.
gonna completely disagree with you there. I think they're not showing nudity because they are older and they're not.
Was this rated R?
Yes, it doesn't matter what the rating is, because I remember seeing clips from It, the original one, where the redheaded girl, she was 15 at the time, and they just made her strip down to her bra and underwear and do this diving, swimming scene. I don't know.
I'm missing something. This was made in 2022, right?
Yeah, Bodies was made in 2022. When
What are
was
you
it
talking about with the
made?
15-year-old?
2017. Yeah, it's
there's
It,
been-
the
it's
film.
been-
It Chapter 1.
It. See how language works? By it, I heard the pronoun and was like, yeah, we've only talked about one movie. You must
No,
mean
It,
I
the
get it. You
movie.
meant the movie It. I got it. I haven't actually seen that, although I should watch it.
I haven't either, but I think the clip that I'm talking about is like, they really sexualize the fuck out of this redheaded girl. I
Right.
don't know what her actor's name is or anything, but that felt wrong to me, because looking back, I saw that clip in 2017 and I thought, that's kind of normal because I was that age at the time. And then
And it's America, and yeah.
and it's America. But then as I grew older, I realized that old men watch that and they
See,
get off on
this
that.
is my
And that's
point,
okay.
yes.
They did not sexualize the characters in Bodies because they were supposed to be 21, 22, 23 years old.
Yeah, but they're still off limits to most of the men you're talking about.
In a different way, I think they're saying they're off limits because they're not young enough. They're not Epstein. They're not
Yeah, but they're
Epstein
not.
victims.
I guess what I'm saying is we still have a cultural unwritten rule book that is the one you're actually supposed to go by. If you're a real gentleman, like hegemonic systems, be a lady actually still means something. Women, fuck that, right? But it does. Most of us actually know if somebody were to deploy that comment against you, you know exactly what the fuck they're talking about, right? There's this cultural bag of things you are supposed to do, and it's supposed to kind of make you feel all day like you just have people watching, panoptic power, right? And if you don't conform, somebody might give you a side eye or tell you you're ugly or something. Your mom might tell you, be a lady. That's more what I'm getting at, is in the masculine bag, we're not supposed to sexualize people. Not in polite company. Just like you're not supposed to talk about politics or certain shit like that. Same thing with rap. Like, who buys the majority of the most vulgar gang, kill the cops, fuck bitches and hoes, all that stuff rap? White, young, whatever, adolescent kids that are middle income, middle class families. Do you think that their values that they see reflected in that music and they're like, oh, hell yeah, I love it, are from the music? That's not how values work. They've already been programmed with it, but their parents didn't say that because the nice bag says, be a gentleman, Jim. But they know. They see how you behave and what movies you like and the things you say are acceptable or not. And I think you're right. It's less sexualization, but if you're in the United States and you're making a movie like this and you can add some sexuality, most producers know that's not going to hurt you and it'll probably help you with at least some crowd. How do you do it classy, or how do you do it? Also, the cultural fears of drugs, which is actually where I pulled this in and then we went some other ways. But one of the big fears I saw is always this recipe for a film about, say, street racing or baseball or something like that. If they're exciting things, and most movies are about exciting things, you'll see them associate the characters with other exciting things. So in Fast and the Furious, we're there for some excitement, and he goes to clubs, and there's girls in hot dresses out in public, and there's parties and shit like that. They're stealing stuff, other exciting stuff. When drugs is in a movie, we all know culturally in the nice bag of be a gentleman and be a lady and follow the rules and be polite is most drugs are still off limits. And so usually it's like a horror movie where there are people getting killed and there's off limits to some of a sexual deviancy and maybe people are a little too promiscuous stuff. Again, cultural fears that people have. And if you put drugs with that, they know it ramps up that concern of like the hurricanes here. And there's also a bunch of people that are unsupervised and they seem like they're less than as moral as I would like. What fears are they reflecting back at us? The specific drugs say a little bit, right? Because we've talked about how they've changed over time.
They're upper class drugs for sure.
Yeah, except
they're very glamorized.
But you're right. They don't smoke weed, do they? Mm-mm. But they have edibles. I'm pretty sure they trick Bee into eating a cake, and they only tell her halfway through that there's weed in it. But then they don't really
smoking the weed is
plot.
not glamour because it smells and it's like whatever. I like it too. I'm not bashing it. I'm just saying. No. I think the way they consume drugs is interesting. It was only ever 2 lines at a time, though.
There's ignorance, too, though. I think our culture, as long as it's in there and they get the gist of it and they know which characters are using it. Another thing that felt to me like Russia, again, not that they were trying to have that represent motherland Russia, but there is this cultural fear of on both sides that they're seeding discontent on social media. They're lying to us, or we're being lied to about them to divide us against each other. When there's this scene where everything comes to a head and here's how they then use the drugs to show us like, see, drugs are dangerous because doing all this other stuff's dangerous. There's a scene where there's only a few people left alive and the 2 not Russian characters say, yeah, but we're all coked out. We've been tweaking, and basically start to realize that they have to blame a lot of what happened on the cocaine. And the Russian speaks up and says, I'm not coked out.
Who was the killer? I wasn't the killer.
Alice, you're fucking coked out.
You're coked out, okay? We're all coked out.
I'm not.
The producers are always, and the writers are always trying to keep us engaged on an emotional level. That's really hard to do. You have to appeal to shit that sometimes we don't even know we're worried about, right? I'm not worried about how much I weigh or if I'm going to be in shape in 5 years compared to most people, and yet you could still... I'm 45. There's things you could do to like get me like, yeah, that is something I'm concerned about. I just don't admit it to myself. Thank you for giving me a way to think about this thing, right? And what this really is a movie about how a certain group of us, I think this has gotten worse since the movie came out in 2022, are so engaged with electronic media and living in what is now Marshall McLuhan style, a different way of living that a lot of us haven't caught up to. And there's a few times even like I told you, borderline. It wasn't hard for me to add the context, but I'm not familiar with that language. I'm guessing almost anybody that's on social media is familiar with a lot of stuff. They even said this in the movie. David, although his name is, I'm forgetting the comedian's name.
Pete Davidson.
Pete Davidson. Yeah, I should remember that. It's David. At one point basically says, you're using these fucking words that you don't even know what they mean except for social media, and you sound like you're just a parrot repeating shit. And it was gaslighting. Perfect, because then they proceed to gaslight people in the movie. When the electricity went down and the internet died, They were all, for the rest of the movie, clinging onto their fucking phones and never put them down and never turn the flashlight off, as if that was their only, even without it working, it's all I got. They were stuck in social media land. The whole thing happened in the end because this dude was stuck. That guy's so much cooler than me on TikTok. He can cut the top of a bottle of champagne off. I'm going to do the same thing. And he goes out and fucking kills himself making a TikTok video. And that's what starts this whole thing. Is somebody so obsessed with making a fucking fake identity on TikTok that while you're at a party with your friends, you go out into the rain and film yourself doing shit like that? That's what starts it. And then they all really lose their shit only when the internet goes away, when they don't have this access to the outside world. And in the meantime, there's scenes where they just can't fucking talk to each other. They don't know each other. They'd be better if they all just went in the corner and texted each other. They're trying to have conversations that just fall apart, almost like they've lost track of what it's like to sit in a room and actually have real conversation with people.
I was looking at some of the reviews for this film, and according to discussingfilm.net, which is like so credible, this commenter said this commenter said this film was marketed specifically to those under 30 and doesn't try to maliciously mock this generation, but gives us a glimpse into who they are, how they communicate, and how a lot of their unhealthy behaviors, if out of hand, can be dangerous. Yes, there's truth to that, but I think it does.
I'm shaking my head, listeners.
It maliciously does mock this generation. What you were saying, Ben, about Gen Zers not being able to sit in a room and have authentic conversation, that's never been true for me personally, but I also don't really exist in the same sphere as these people in this movie. What I do want to talk about, though, is the fact that these are all upper middle class, you know. Your parents are upper middle class.
You're just so in love with your rags to riches narrative, like you're the only fucking person in the world who didn't come from money. You know what? Your parents are upper middle class. No, they're not. Jordan, they are. They teach at a university. It's public.
That was a good line. That was very silly. This is the climax. This is when the three girls are all in the room, and she's talking to Jordan, who you say is the conservative one with the gun, supposed to be the conservative one.
Or I think she's representing conservative.
That's what I mean. And then Alice says to her, your parents are upper middle class.
Yeah.
That was funny. Creators of this film, the writers, the producers, the directors, they made this film to kind of alienate this behavior to just very specific parts of this generation, like parts that we don't see, like the upper class people, like the ones with the gigantic house and the swimming pool, and they can ride out the hurricane with their Xanax and all of that. They're trying to make it seem like these rules just apply to this group of people, and so we don't have to be scared of it. But the way that they have created this entire movie surrounding something, an event that didn't happen, that sparked, what, 4 murders?
Yeah.
It's not just saying this is a small portion of Gen Z. This is all of Gen Z.
I think it's all humans on the level you're saying. Yeah, like I
think it could be all humans, but I argue it's all Gen Z because they're doing Gen Z behaviors throughout that. Like, do you remember at the beginning of the film they make out, they're in the car, they're texting. That's a whistle to Gen Z. Like, that's what we kind of do sometimes. Like, we will kind of take a break and just text. I mean, my mom does the same thing, though, so I don't know how authentic that is.
But it's way more common for you. Did you see Civil War? I'm trying to remember who it had, and it was a movie about basically America going to civil war today, and it followed reporters that were trying to...
No, I haven't seen that.
The same thing you're saying is pasted onto older people. So there's groups of people that have been, buckle down and you know how to do your own stuff, and make sure you don't have to rely on people if worse comes to worse. And when their movies get represented and turned up to 10 like the media has to do to make a good movie, it comes out as like they've dug a bunker in the backyard by themselves and filled it up with enough water to last for forever. And then the tools your generation has really, well, you grew up with them, so they were much like any generation, they were much more natural to you. Like language, you teach a kid at a young age, they just learn it. They don't even realize they're learning. This reflected y'all, but when I see that murder scene, I actually see that possible in any generation and in almost any setting based on how they built the plot, that you're suddenly in this situation where, however it unfolded, right, even if it was their fault that they were coming after this dude with knives, he now is coming after your girlfriend, and it looks like he might go do something to her. I don't know as I'd kill him, but I can see in that moment, most people would probably feel compelled to get involved and at least try to stop the guy from doing it by maybe hitting him. And if you happen to have a frying pan in your hand or whatever, it was very specified for your generation. Every generation bleeds up. That's a weird way to say it, but the technology that y'all grow up with so you get really good at it, we all get jelly really fucking quick because you can accomplish some stuff better. And we're headed towards, when this movie came out, we weren't where we're at now, but adding AI to this, you wouldn't believe how hard it is nowadays already just to get students to engage. And I think part of it is they've already outsourced their thinking. They've already gotten so used to this best friend they have that always treats them nice and will tell them any answer they think is right. They can verify it in half a second real quick before they actually say it out loud. And now they're in class and they can't do that. They could make this movie again and do it with AI instead of just with social media.
I think generational differences does come up in the movie when Pete Davidson's character, David, is kind of at a war with the Greg, who is supposed to represent Gen X, millennial, just an older generation. And Pete Davidson feels extremely emasculated next to him because they paint Greg to be this war vet, all that. He turns out to be a veterinarian, sure, but that's still more than what Pete Davidson, his character, could.
Who made the mistake when they heard vet and said, he's a vet from war, isn't he? The liberals, or the characters representing liberalism or conservatism. It was the liberals. And then maybe they all had bought on, but it seems we didn't, at this point, I hadn't seen the characters actually take the shape. It felt like that was only in that one scene, which was really well done. Before that, they were all just friends and stuff, right? Although now I kind of want to watch it again and see if they sprinkled the seeds of where they were going or the hints of where they were going ahead of time, but I didn't notice until that last scene. One of the fears us older people have is you're going to fuck everything up because you're idiots. You've lived in a world where you didn't have to go out and learn, and you make so... Of course, I'd never think this way, but there's this cultural fear that I'm putting into words that is, you are so easy to persuade of some shit just because you haven't experienced the world. And to some degree, you're going to recognize this in another 15 years when you watch the next fuckers coming in. That's true of every generation. They don't have the experience, but you guys have been giving this unique ability to feel as if you have had the experience. And even when you know you don't have it because you just watched 800 hours of the roller coaster online, you still kind of feel like you fucking do.
Let me jump in because I think the emasculation of Pete Davidson's character shows that you can have all the money, the fame, the drugs, the riches, and you have never had to pull yourself up by the bootstraps. But in this case, Greg has, and that's what David wants. That's what David envies. And I think there is this kind of jealous relationship between Gen Z and Gen X because to some extent, Gen Z views Gen X as having things handed to them. Like things were a little bit easier in some terms for the economy, job searching. Job market is horrible right now and might just get a new pen.
But it says smash the patriarchy. I don't want to throw it away.
Okay, well, you can put that up. You can, hang it up.
It's gone. Sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead. I wanted to write down reaction so I don't forget what we're talking, what I want to come back to.
Okay. I think Greg represents this fountain of experience, of hard work to some of these people, especially Alice, the white girl who's dating him. He's kind of like this foreign, kind of authentic person that she's never had in her life. So he is like B in this, but he is more unaware of what's going on in Gen Z. He is truly the outsider, whereas B is kind of our access to the story. Greg didn't have a happy ending. He was killed pretty early on in the movie.
Or Greg's...
It's the kettlebell.
Yeah, okay. That's what she hit him with? I couldn't tell.
Kettlebell. Because they were in the gym.
Dark. Another thing we're just mentioning real quick as a pass is that you also in media always want to appeal to other cultural mediums that are normal at the time, and there was so much video game weird looking shit in here where characters just walk away even when you're talking to them, and then him laying in this room So, like, you just got to the next level. And then I also saw a lot of aspects of puzzle rooms. Have you ever done one of those escape rooms? That felt
love
like
'em.
they're way more popular than ever before. And there's a certain feel to those that also make it perfect for this film. If you can get people's mind to just turn on a few of those neural circuits while they're
Well,
watching, it's more engaging.
Do you know why those games are popular within Gen Z?
Why? Because you haven't had any struggles?
Well, because we can solve it easily, but we didn't create it.
That was a joke.
We can solve the problem because there's already a solution to it. It's
No,
already
actually, that's
pre-programmed.
interesting, because that's how you've been so used to interacting with a lot of the world for so long, with media that's already fully completed.
Like if you're playing a video game and you have to press X to go into the door, you're going to press X to go into the door, and you think that you've solved the level and you're so smart and you've cracked the game. You actually just did what was pre-programmed for you. You did exactly what the Panopticon wanted you to do.
See, they got your generation more than ours. And of course, like every generation, I think McLuhan said this too, they're never going to have to fight you. We sign up for it and beg for it. We'll fucking pay for it. Like, it's this fear that, like, someday the technology people are going to come for us and we'll have to fight. Man, you're going to have to fight to get service. You're going to be like, can I pay more than the next guy to get more of it? Reaction, another thing that's worth mentioning, the scene I've seen 1,000 times in a ton of movies, and most movies I have some scene like it, where somebody who is rich and young faces off with, it wasn't even really a face off, but it turned into one, faces off with a older, more experienced guy who seems to actually have some charm that you can't fucking buy, and it's just like experience and not being a sleazebag, stuff like that, right? Not having cocaine that you own be your highest feature. But his reaction is what got me.
Best defense is a good offense.
Well, what does it mean, though?
Well, it means that the best defense is a good offense.
Right. I heard you, but what does it mean to you, Greg? Like, I don't know, could you elaborate on it for us? Break it down?
Yeah, sure. So, look, in sports, there...
Oh my god, you're such a fucking dick.
Hey, this is a teaching moment.
Well, I see. You're fucking with me.
No. I'm not fucking with you, Greg. I'm just having fun.
In the 90s, I would have seen the rich guy, I don't know, sue him or throw wine on him and say, call my attorney. In the early 2000s, I would have... In other words, there's been different tools in the bag of the person who now is, like, humbled but doesn't like how they feel. And they can also reflect what's normal in culture right now. What Pete Davidson did was what's normal in culture right now. He started fucking with him and gaslighting him.
Best defense is offense.
Yeah, but he, instead of saying, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? I'll fuck you up. I'm still from the streets, like might have happened in the 90s. You see him start to fuck with the guy. Can you tell me a little more? And he doesn't catch on right away because, again, he's older and he interacts with, like me, interacts with the world different. That's why these movies work so well when they're well done, is if you can reflect stuff like that back at people. We've all been dealing with this and trying to figure out a way to put into words what you can't put into words. There's these generational differences, and I sometimes can't even put my finger on them, but they make these little fuckers annoying, or something to that effect.
I think this was based on a book or a show or something. I'm not really sure.
It has to be. It must
because here's the thing, is that Gen Z craves nostalgia. Because we think that our childhood, like, despite 2008 being horrible for our parents, for the most part, I think we really crave that time, and we spend a lot of time thinking about, oh, do you remember when we would watch The Little Mermaid and play Webkins and, like, Club Penguin, and we'd play outside? That was kind of our paradise. There was so much nostalgia in the film because of how it was created. It was created from something else, and that's what I'm noticing a lot about new Gen Z media, excluding Euphoria, which I think that's just... I don't know where they came up with that, but...
Have you heard my reviews on it? I think we could re-review
No, I think
that.
we should talk about Euphoria, though.
Yeah, I think it also fits with the characters who... We didn't add this piece, but the final piece is how do you make the audience concerned right away? You have to also find something that culturally most people right now would be more likely to be like, I have to protect that thing. Who did they put in this house? Young people, mostly. And this is another reflection of our generation. like race neutral. Nobody even saw skin color there except a few times when it came up, but there were black folks, white folks. There was clearly not just heterosexuality there. There was only a couple guys, but this group, if it was all guys in that room and they were all, say, 45 years old, as audience members, we're less like, oh no, I hope something doesn't happen to them. So that's another piece of this that we should throw in. Euphoria seemed to use that same recipe. If you're going to get the audience on board right away and make sure that they feel the compassion you want them to feel, you have to choose a character that in a patriarchal culture they already feel compassion for, because they know all men treat all women like shit, generally.
Yeah. Specifically on the lines of that, in terms of Euphoria, Sydney Sweeney's character, the blonde innocent girl who's treated like shit by Nate, is like deemed so. I know that her arc definitely changes throughout the seasons, and as of last season, she was deemed really poorly by audiences, and people were just tired of her. But you contrast her with this other character, this Latina Maddy, right? And she's like been treated like shit her entire high school career by this guy, and no one really feels bad for her as much as they feel bad for Sydney Sweeney. I think young white audiences kind of feel for Sydney Sweeney because they're like, oh, the pretty white girl didn't get the guy. Keep trying, sis. Like,
we're using white, that's a big part of it, but I think we could just call it like middle-class American culture, which tends to be predominantly ethical values derived from mostly white groups or groups of white people. This fantasy, if you will, or they'll put up with a lot of really vindictive women that will get dirty if they have to and fight dirty. Sarah Palin had some word for this. I'm forgetting. It's like a...
I love those hockey moms. You know, they say the difference between a hockey mom and a pit bull? Lipstick.
In the polite bag of, when you finally get married, if you find a good woman someday, Benjamin, if my mom would ask me, and she would, what values would you like her to have? That bag of things I'm going to give my mom, which is not including about 5 other things I want, including like, stuff I'm not going to tell my mom. In the process of that is going to be in this bag of things I don't tell her, like she can, if she needs to get grimy for me to protect me or to protect our larger group. And that's what I saw in Sweeney's character. I think I haven't watched this in a while, but I remember that she started out that we as viewers were supposed to be like, she seems like is kind of innocent and being victimized, but the more we got to know about her, she had been,
well,
this
she
is the
got
virgin
pregnant.
whore dichotomy. Yeah, but she had also been like fucking people's lives up behind the scenes, right? If I remember right. So, I thought
she was innocent. That was her best friend. So her best friend was supposed to be like this evil maniac. God, she's so hot. So you can't really like
Sweeney?
Can't really hate. No, Alexia Demi, the Maddy character.
Let me see. Alexia. I don't want
I feel like it would help if you had watched the show recently. Just saying.
Oh, she's young. Jeez.
She is on Ozempic now.
They all look young now. Why is she on Ozempic? She looks like...
I don't know, but she looks really skinny scary. Anyway, Maddy is supposed to be this like dark character, and Sydney Sweeney, what is her character's name? Cassie is supposed to be this light, like beautiful blonde character. They're supposed to kind of be polar opposites, and they're supposed to balance each other out. And then at one point, they're at war with each other because they're fighting over the same man, which is so patriarchal.
Yeah, see what I mean?
It just
now,
it
awesome
plays
because,
into patriarchy.
But it also gives us this is the beauty of American media. It's why everybody likes it. You and I can watch it and be like, oh, girl, I remember people like you in high school, and we all feel bad for you. And I'm so glad that Euphoria is showing us and forcing us to see that these people are still out there, and we clearly see that she's making all these mistakes. Maybe my daughter will be less likely to make those mistakes. And on the flip side, if you're the pervy old man, you're like, when's the next scene of the trans naked person? Because I would never want to see that, but please, more, right? It's inviting both groups in, and they're both invisible. Neither group is actually doing any cultural work or trying to recognize what values they're absorbing. They're just seeing something. This is America, something that makes us go, I
think it's something that's out of the water, out of the ordinary. Like you're saying, like Kat, the one who had the short black bob and she was doing sex work and everything. I think we all felt really scared for her, especially me as someone who's been down that route that she is going down. She did it a lot better than I did, but I was scared for her. And then her actor didn't really align with that storyline, so she left the show. I think that was beneficial because I think that the directors, writers, and producers of Euphoria would have dragged that out into something horrible. There is something to be said about safe sex work, especially the fact that she was 17 when she was doing it. Like, that's a sticky area. But like you're saying, this show has something for everyone. There's so many characters to follow, and they can just take off the ones that they don't want to show anymore. Like, I know McKay is off the show, Kat is off the show, Gia, Rue's sister, is off the show. They let these actors decide these things, but they also can just take them off if they feel like their storyline no one relates to anymore. Because they can see that. They can see the viewership with each scene.
I want Mouse back. I want Mouse to come back and go through some sort of experience in life, and he's like, I had to recover from them bullets, and now I realize I was lost, and completely flip the stereotype around. It's wild to see so many of the same things playing out. You start with a room full of producers that say, we need a list of things people are afraid of right now. We need a list of things that people really want to do, but they don't really know if they're allowed to because it might make them bad people. And then we need a plot. So we also need to explain, like, well, what attracted these people to this party in the first place? Horror as a genre has this really unique way to force us to get smacked in the face because it's supposed to be about fear. We just usually don't think about how it's actually also about your cultural fears.
I read this book in high school for a class. It was called Drive by Daniel Pink. It was about intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. Don't read it, guys. Like, he wrote that for extrinsic motivation. He wrote that to get the check. He gets like $500,000 per speaking event, whatever. But I think he had this great theory of like the carrot and the stick. It's kind of baiting people in Euphoria to, oh, you like seeing the teens naked, huh? That's a carrot. But then to the teens that are watching it, I think for your audience, it's a carrot. Like, you get to see our world. But for mine, it's a stick because Kat, like, something bad would have happened to her if she continued with sex work. Sydney Sweeney got pregnant. Maddy lost her boyfriend. Rue went to rehab. Like, it's all of these sticks to show us not to go down this road. And it all centers back around into drugs of like, don't do drugs. Don't do drugs. And that's the same with Bodies, 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 because Sophie's sobriety was so important for 2 seconds. And it was just kind of this thing that they hung over her head.
I thought I saw her do coke in the middle. And
she did. She did coke and she drank. And then the Jordan girl, the one with the gun, she said, did you use?
Right.
And that's kind of like, that's how I'm also treated to this day. Like, I could even joke about like, oh, are we doing coke, guys? But like, it's scary for people to think of me who've never even known me to slip up in sobriety. It's scary for my friends now for me to joke about that, apparently. And they're like, stop joking about that. That's not
this
funny.
This is another good one to bring up. The trope of what does recovery look like in films.
Yeah.
That hasn't moved a fucking inch because neoliberalism won't let it. If you are recovering, clean and sober, and then you use, you fucked up. And probably, I like that they also added, you're going to blame it on someone else because we got to see that little gem. Why is it that every time drugs are in movies, and they're depicted as like the cause of a problem or they make a problem worse, they're usually also at some point, like here, depicted as causing addictions, and there's these problems. If you use drugs, you will have problems. Why don't they ever explain the reason people are actually using the drugs? Because the reason we see is always that list of taboo things I'm supposed to be attracted to, that I'm interested in. Nowhere on that list is I'll shit my pants if I stop using it once I'm addicted, and I'll lose all my money and drain my bank account, and my skin will get bad, and all this other shit that people think about drugs. That's not what draws these people to the party. What draws them to the party is young girls having sex and the lowering of prohibitions while I get to peek through the window type shit. Why wouldn't they tell us the real reason people use drugs? Oh, wait, I know. It's because we live in a culture where things like the TV show or the movie that you're watching exist, and we really love them. And if we start to notice that that is the real reason, and it is, everything is now caught up in this system you and I keep coming back to of neoliberal. Get rid of the fucking personal relationship. It's so much hassle, you guys. Get rid of the coca leaves. Just suck out the one chemical out of 7,000 that you want. Get rid of the cannabis and pull out just the THC and put it in whatever you want. Sex, you don't need to go love somebody. You can just objectify the specific things you want and pay for it. Vacations, all of it. That world is now defining our media to the point that we don't even see it.
It's shortened and it's instant gratification. So I think
It'd just
to
be
connect
wild to
that
see
with
the movie, wouldn't it? To be somebody to be like, let's make a movie where we show the viewer that when you live in a neoliberal capitalist culture like ours, you naturally have to expect that the things you used to do that would bring you closer to your work and to the rest of the community, you're now in a fucking drive-through at McDonald's, not moving, or you're in a slot at a factory putting stuff together. There's no way that that doesn't cause you to feel disconnected compared to the other world. And that's why we have these movies, because you're so fucking disconnected in a world like ours. You need something to replace what you feel like you've lost. And that's why you're going to use drugs. Everybody would walk out of the theater and be like, I'll be goddamned. I got to do something about this. And instead, they're like, oh, this is Chomsky's filter one, right? Don't shit on your own media, because then people won't buy it next time. But they can't give us the real story in a story about addiction, because it would be, you live in a culture that's so fucked up it has movies like this and it causes people to get terribly addicted. Well, fuck.
Right.
Get rid of the movies, Maddy.
Well, I love the expression of when you point your finger, there's three pointing back at you, right? Because like we all perpetuate this culture. Rue is addicted to drugs, or I use the term addicted lightly. Like, yes, she is physically dependent on it, and she does crave it, but I don't like the term addicted.
I don't think they ever took us to places where we saw her life decrease. I guess she was failing in school, wasn't she?
Well,
that's
here's
probably
the thing:
enough,
is
but
that
we don't get a good view of that.
She started using because her dad had passed away, and her way to feel closer to him was to use his pain medication.
Yeah,
That's
right.
yes, yeah, right. But
Actually,
I'm saying like they got at some of it of the disconnect, like missing a loved one. Yes,
Yep.
you will fall into using drugs. That's fine.
Except not necessarily if instead of having a neoliberal culture where you're like, well, where do I go with this pain? To the therapist, get your wallet out. To your
Right,
family,
and
maybe two people. But yeah, where's the circle of people that instead of heroin, she would have been like, I need to share something that was my dad's, and they're all on board. We don't do that anymore. We go to the fucking movies.
She's actively running from everyone, from the law, from her mom, from her friends' moms. And that's when you kind of see her quote unquote, and it's a heavy quote unquote rock bottom. People in sobriety and recovery love to say, I hit my rock bottom and then I went back up. You don't have to hit a rock bottom. Like, I never hit a rock bottom. I had to go. I had to go to rehab because I was going to lose housing. It's not so black and white where I'm like, I ran around without any clothes on and then the cops arrested me and then they tested my blood and I had so much fentanyl in my system. Like, it's not like that for everyone. And I don't think it's like that for Rue. And to paint her entire struggle with drugs into this one scene of like running away from the cops, from everyone. It's cliche.
Whenever I say, why do people use drugs early in a semester, I always have one student, usually the first one, that's willing to chime in because they know it's right, to stop pain, to get away from how they feel, to escape their own
it's disconnect.
struggles.
It's
yeah,
social
and sometimes
disconnect.
it's the opposite of that. Because we're so socially disconnected, when we get together in groups, it's sometimes like awkward because you realize, I haven't seen my best friend in 13 months. That's kind of weird in a normal world, isn't it? You don't know where people are at. Sometimes you have political differences that exist in our modern world. Class plays a part. If I got $1 trillion in my pocket and I don't know if this guy can afford the lunch I invited him to, there's like an elephant in the room. We can cut through all of that shit. Exactly. With a little dose, but that's not, like I said, the movie would be great. It would just be like the last movie. Because once you make it, people are going to be like, well,
people would crack the code. Yeah. People would understand
that's not what neoliberalism is. Capitalism rule number one, don't tell me you're selling me a glass full of piss, right? At least the whole thing is the story, my guy. Tell me a fabulous story about the giant in the sky, and I'll give you $13 for the $14 for the glass of piss. If you take the story out, there's no reason for us to keep doing this shit.
And if you call the glass of piss lemonade,
spritz it with some lemon flavored stuff.
Yeah. Who the fuck's gonna say no?
Okay, speed round, are you in?
Yeah.
All right, dog or cat?
Dog.
I knew it. Ritalin or Adderall?
Adderall.
Fly or drive?
Drive.
Breakfast or lunch?
Breakfast.
Yes. AM or PM? That's related.
I gotta say both.
Yeah,
I like both for different reasons.
You'll decide in the end. T or A?
T or A? Oh, tits or ass.
I don't know. It was just on my list.
Los dos.
Los dos. Nice. That's what if it was flipped, I would have said the same. Nike or Adidas?
Ooh, Nike.
Oh my God, you preppy bitch. Nike, or that threw me off. I wouldn't have expected that. Beer or wine?
Beer.
Ski, snowboard, or sled? You can add a third
Ski.
one.
Ski.
Really? You're a skier?
Yeah, I used to ski.
You are a preppy. Apple or Android? I already know the answer to this.
Apple.
The fact that I know the answer, though, tells you...
I don't know how to work an Android.
It just tells the listeners I'm also a preppy bitch, because I wouldn't know unless I had blue messages from you. 500 years in the future, first stop. If you could get in a time machine, you don't know where you're going, but you somehow, let's ignore all the paradoxical, the Earth will be 10 trillion miles over there, and like, you're going to land in space. If you could travel 500 years in the future and not know anything, and you wanted to figure out what changed, where would you go first?
If I wanted to know what changed,
Or just, let's just say, I added that. Just say you land 500 years in the future. Where do you want to go?
where do I want to go?
Yeah.
I don't want to be in the U.S., but that's kind of where everything I'm
You
going
don't
to
know
know
that. Maybe
what
we fixed
changed.
it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I don't think so.
That's why I cut the corner.
You know what?
instead.
I want to be at the Arctic. I wanted to see if we saved the Arctic.
Nice. No, that's good. I would have said probably, this might be wild, but I would have said a church first. I'd want to go into a
Really?
church just to see 500 years. How much have you guys fixed shit, and why is
Ooh,
this building still
maybe even Skid Row. Because I
And
think that would
I
be
would say the
interesting,
second
how
place
homelessness changes.
I would have gone to a dive bar next, which is just one step adjacent. Because
Yeah.
same thing. I'd be curious about, like, how have we moved the upper and lower self-proclaimed moral people? All right, how about 500 years in the past?
500 years in the
First
past.
place you'd want to go.
Oh gosh. How long is 500 years? It's 2020.
So 1500. Holy shit.
Ooh, at medieval times. It's past the Black Plague, right?
Fair.
I love medieval
Depends
times.
on where you're
So
at.
I'm loving it. I'm gonna be in Europe. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
where
be
you-
I'm gonna be a
what-
peasant.
But where? Like, if you were just in some town somewhere, where do you go?
France or Italy.
No, like okay, is there establishments? Maybe you're right. Like, to say, where would I go? Somebody's house? There is no thing to go to, but
Yeah.
France or Italy. Okay. I was going to say the bar on that, but
I'd go to a
you
castle,
probably-
actually. I'd go to
Yeah,
some
just to see.
royalty.
And then
Yeah.
they kill us because we're not supposed to be there. All right.
Yeah, it's okay.
Chicken or beef?
Beef?
You don't eat? Are you a vegetarian?
No. I
didn't
eat
think so.
everything.
It just, the listeners could have thought you meant, like, I don't want to eat that.
They're both good, so I don't know. It's hard to pick.
Nice. That felt like it got oddly double entendre. New York or LA?
New York.
Really?
Yeah, fuck LA.
Oh, okay. It's good to have different people in my life, I guess. Oh, that's it.
I tested the waters on TikTok. I re-downloaded it and I made a TikTok about Euphoria and it went viral.
Oh my God.
That's how you crack the code.
Yeah, but like I just don't want to.
It's just fun to see like what people comment and like
I know, and it burns so much of our energy in life. But here I'm saying that, and like, there's no getting out of it. It's power, right? I'm like deliberately entering it, inviting you. Let's go on a podcast and steal some of people's time with petty shit that you're not going to teach them much, and it just wastes their fucking life. And it's all fake. They don't know if I'm actually a goody two shoes fucking preacher every Sunday. They just know I'm some guy that. I mean, actually, at this point, I imagine if you're still on board, I've been getting some really good emails. And when I'd stopped or slowed down, like, I've had some cool people lately. They have some cool conversations with me, and they all are deep thinkers. So I'll stick around for a while, guys. I'm not yanking your chain.
good.
Yeah.
I'll be here too, guys.
Nice. We'll see about that. You and I are watching it with, and that people even that are trying to watch it more filtered than I, like academic vision. How does the movie work, and why is it that they show this instead of this, and why these characters instead of them, why those drugs instead of those, etc., why this weather event instead of the next? Like, that's great, but that's not how kids watch it. I never watched a movie like that as a kid, so all this shit you're saying, it's hilarious in a terrible way. This is all wrapped up to tell us, once again, just a reminder, drugs are actually bad. Look at all this bad shit that happened, and drugs clearly had a part, if not caused some of it to happen. So these don't do drugs, kids. Appeasement for the parents who are thinking they better not be making drugs romantic in this movie. Well, no, they're not. Look what happened in the end. Your fucking kids do not watch media that way. They remember clips of it, and they're going to say, remember that scene where those hot women that we're really into because they're superhero famous people we don't actually know, but we have parasocial relationships with? We should be like them. and we all know it's hogwash, and we just keep fucking buying it. What a country.
I buy it so I can analyze it and dissect it. That's fun for me.
It's also very enjoyable. So, all right, let's do it again. Let me know when you got time.
Okay.
All right, that was Maddy Grace, film critic extraordinaire, and if I have anything to say about it, future master's degree student and possibly PhD. And I think we said just about all we could about that film. So if you enjoyed this format or this topic, let me know, and I'll cover some other films with her in the future. In the meantime, love yourselves and the addicted people in your life. I'm Ben Boyce. Oh, it is on Tubi now. I just had to watch commercials. And
What the fuck is Tubi? What the fuck is Tubi? Can it be on HBO Max?
You are so... This has been a very
Nope.
interesting
Nope.
conversation.
Because I use